So I have my K here in this space. I'll have my R here, my I, my S, my T, my I, my N, and my A. Alright, so now I'm going to draw stick letters, just regular letters, for inside, and I have to stay constrained within the box to draw out my letters. Okay, so now I have my letters here. This is when you fix it. Let's say, oh, my A's a lot bigger and I don't want it to be as big. Then I can maybe bring it down a little bit, whatever it might be. Then you can turn it over and go over everything. Go over your lines that you want. Okay, so now I have my letters here. They're backwards. And then when I get the paper that I want, then I'm going to very carefully make sure that paper on top, this paper does not move. I'm going to center it where I want it on my paper. I might have it sideways, however you want it. Weight it down. Maybe I wouldn't tape it down, but just make sure this doesn't move. If it moves, it's going to mess it up. You do not want to mess it up. So now I'm going to rub off every spot. And I'm going to go over it with pencil. Everywhere where I have line underneath. Make sure you get it all. And then you'll see that it's copied on here. Now it's drawn lightly that way. If you press too hard here, it's going to come off pretty, you're going to get a lot of thick pencil lines. So I'm going to keep going. Check it every once in a while and make sure it's where you want it. Yep. Alright, so I got all my lines. Now I'm going to go over it with the markers. Maybe two similar bluish colors. And a darker blue. Alright, so now I'm going to outline. I'm going to start off with the greener one so it blends well. So I'm going to go from greenish to a darker blue at the bottom. I'm going to outline my letters. And I'm going to put a little more color here. It doesn't have to be all that neat here because we're going to be watercoloring all this. And I'm going to try and stay consistent about how far I go down with this color because I want all my letters to look unified. Now I'm going to go with the next color, the one that's slightly bluer. I might overlap a little bit there. Like I said, you don't have to be all that neat about it because we're going to be watercoloring later. Blending all the colors. And like I said before when we went over how to do this, the blending, you want to pick colors that are closer to each other on the color wheel generally. If you decide to choose complementary colors like red and green, then when they blend together, they usually will make kind of a muddy color. Sometimes it looks kind of pretty, but for the most part, I would say use that paper that we experimented on before. Blend the colors on that to see whether or not you're going to end up liking it. Because if you don't like it and you need a new paper, sorry. You'll get the slightly cheaper version of the paper. I don't want to waste paper. Alright, so now I'm going to go with the dark blue. It's kind of a bluish purple. So now I'm going to kind of bring some more of that color up into the other. It'll help it blend more when I get the water on there. And I'll bring a little more color here because I want a lot of color when I put the water on. If you want more color in there, you can always color more of the edges inward. For example, if I want more of this in here. Alright, now I'm going to take my watercolor. Get my brush. I don't have a lot of water in here. Very little water needed. I'll start off with this side because I'm left-handed. I don't want to drag my arm in wet paint. And notice how it blends nicely. I'm not getting too much water onto the paper. But I also have to work quickly because if I let something sit for a long time and then go back to it, it's already dry. It won't blend very nicely. So I'm going to have to get more marker on it. If you decide you need more color in there, then you can always go back and draw on it. But I would wait until it's dry before drawing on it. And notice how you blend the colors by going back and forth with it. I don't have tons of water on the paper, remember. And pull up from the outside. You want to draw lines that are a little more defined. You can bring that color up more. Just go back and forth until it's blended the way you want it. If you go outside of the lines a little bit, that's okay because we're going to go over it with ink later when it's totally dry. You want to wait until it's dry though. Don't ever draw on top of wet unless you want it to be all... It'll make the marker bleed. I'm going to do this with all my letters. We'll fast forward through this. What I just did there was there's a spot that didn't look blended well, so I made sure I got a lot of the marker onto my paint or brush. And then I went over it and fixed it. Alright, so now that I have all my lettering done, I'm going to let it dry first, and then I can go over it with ink. But you have to let it dry totally. And I will use what the kids get to use, which are Crayola markers. If they bring their own, that's great. I prefer using a brush marker. This is the brush marker that I use. So that works a lot better, but if they don't have that, then that's fine. We're going to use a Crayola, and once again, I'm left-handed, so I'm going to start on to the right side so I don't drag my hand in the damp marker lines. But I'm going to draw a line around everything. So I'm going kind of random. Some of them are overlapping certain letters, and some of them overlap in other areas. These all, the previous letter overlaps the one in front of it. However, here I'm going to have the I in front here, and in back of the R back here. Adds a little character. And we're going to clean up the lines later, because I want to make certain areas thicker than others. Alright, so I have everything outlined. If I want to give it that 3D look, or some, like gives it some depth, then I'm going to stay consistent. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to make everything thicker. And I can go back and do the tops later. So that's the left-hand side of the A. This is also left. I think I'll go on the top. So that means top, left hand. And since this is slightly turning to the right, I'm not going to do too much up there. Okay. So now that I think I've got it all, I can do designs and stuff in the background. Those of you who teach and you plan on doing this project was for graffiti lettering. We went over what good graffiti and bad graffiti is, and we have already gone over how to do the blending of the colors. We went over color, we went over line, and we've gone over value. So this was the project that all of that led up to. And we did Zentangle, so sometimes they might do Zentangle in the background. I just told them to be creative with the art. It does not necessarily have to be graffiti. I also told them they had to fill up their paper. I don't want a name really tiny. The name should be the focus, and then they're drawing around it. I used cardstock for this one. You could use cardstock. You can use just, I have a pack of Crayola markers, I think 12 colors involved in the pack, and that's available for them. And all they need is a paintbrush, basic paintbrush, and a little bit of water. So it's easy, no mess really. Do not give them expensive watercolor paper. It doesn't blend as easily, and it's not worth it. I think cheap paper's better, actually. This is the one that I was doing in art club, playing around with it, because I had never heard of this blending with Crayolas before until recently. So to do this, you do a fine line. This is gray. I drew a fine line there, and then used water, and it blended it, so it just kind of looks like it's barely there. The more marker you have, the more color there is in the drawing. All right, that's it. Thank you.